All right, welcome and thanks everybody for joining us tonight for the pre-convention informational webinar. I'm Barb Nederpel. I am the president of the Hospital Employees Union, and I'll be hosting this webinar this evening from the provincial office, which is located on the unceded and traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples. That includes lands belonging to the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And my pronouns are she and her. All right, so convention, as we all know, is coming up super fast. And many of you are new, or many of you have been around for a while and just want a refresher. And that is because there's just so much to an HEU convention. And this is just, it's such an important event to all of us because really, like, our convention is like our House of Parliament. And we only hold this every 2 years, unless there's a COVID thing, but otherwise it's every 2 years that we do this. And at convention, delegates, which are all elected from the membership at the local, have the collective and democratic power to guide the union's future. And they do that through electing the provincial executive and through creating the laws and the policies and the campaigns for the union to follow in the term ahead. So what we're going to do this afternoon is go over a few things that will help you get prepared and just introduce you to what we do at convention. And we're going to be going over how to vote for resolutions and constitutional amendments, and of course the elections process for provincial executive. But first, I'm going to hand it over to Betty Valenzuela, our financial secretary, who's going to go over things like union leave, rest days, and travel. So go ahead, Betty.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Betty Valenzuela, and I am your financial secretary. I'm zooming in from head office, which is situated on the traditional unceded territories of the Musqueam, Salish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I am looking forward to seeing you all at convention starting Sunday, October 16 to Friday, October 21. A detailed agenda will be sent to you in advance, but I'll share a few initial details here. When you arrive, you can register on site Sunday between 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. or Monday between 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. For first-time delegates, there is a new delegate seminar which will take place on Sunday at 6:30 p.m. There is also an elections orientation at 7:30 p.m., which will go over all the details of how elections for the provincial election work. Then there is a meet and greet from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., which is a great way to start to get to know your fellow delegates. You would have received by now a letter from me dated September 2nd, which tells you your expenses. The heading says expenses, transportation, and accommodation for the Hospital Employees Union 33rd Biennial Convention, October 16 to 21, 2022. If you haven't already done so, please apply for union leave for the period or the dates October 16, which is Sunday, to October 21, Friday. If you have any problems obtaining your union leave, please contact your shop steward or your servicing rep. You should also complete and sign the voucher which was sent to you by mail with your per diems and hours of work. It's because it tells us your union leave, and it will also give us information on your per diem and travel expense claims. Members will be paid a per diem of $75 per event day or per full day of travel to cover food costs and miscellaneous expenses. The form looks like the image on the right. Oh, she's showing it here. You can also find the form at heu.org/convention 2022. Any expenses incurred for travel to and from convention can later be submitted on a second expense voucher. You will receive 2 of these forms. You must keep original receipts until your expenses are paid. Checks for the second voucher will be sent by mail after convention. You may be granted additional hours for travel, if applicable. Please contact member vouchers at heu.org for approval of travel book off. It's showing here on the left hand of the screen. All delegates are also entitled to a rest day if your regular days off fall during the period at convention, October 17 to 21. You must seek pre-approval from the finance department by emailing membervouchers@heu.org prior to booking any rest days. Prior, not after. Unfortunately, we are unable to grant a rest day if you are on a day off on Sunday, October 16. Participants requiring air travel are requested to contact WE Travel Services toll-free at 1-800-663-4703, and it's right there at the bottom of the screen. Please indicate you are attending the Hospital Employees Union 33rd Biennial Convention. Your air tickets will be faxed or emailed to you, and they will bill the provincial office directly. These reservations cannot be changed or canceled at a later date without payment of a penalty charge. If you cancel, the union will have to pay a penalty charge. Please note, the airline charges a fee of $31.50 per checked baggage. This will need to be paid at the airport and then can be submitted for reimbursement. Please note that if you choose to drive rather than fly, HEU will pay the equivalent to flight costs from specific airports plus kilometers to and from your home or your actual kilometers driven, whichever is less. Please see letter we sent by email and by mail for a guide on these travel expenses. This is the letter that I was showing you earlier. If you have any questions regarding travel, union leave, or rest day policies, please contact membervouchers@heu.org. I hope that you have smooth travels to convention, and I look forward to seeing you at convention. That's it for my presentation. If you have any questions, I hope I have the answers.
If Betty doesn't have the answers, we'll get you the answers. Don't you worry. Thanks so much for that, Betty. Eleanor, we're going to take questions at the end. Feel free to put your question in the chat or write it down and we'll come back to that. All right, thanks so much for that, Betty. That's really helpful. It's really, really important information. And I know that's probably the majority of what folks actually are here for tonight, is to find out about travel. But I'm here to talk a little bit about, what do we do at convention and how does it actually work? I'm going to start by talking about our provincial executive, or also known as the PE. And that's one of the main reasons why we have convention, is to elect your provincial executive. So what is a PE? Well, it's the governing body of the union between convention. So the PE has the fiduciary duty, or the legal responsibility for everything that the union does. Now, while they provide the direction and the vision of the union, they actually don't have influence over the day-to-day operations. So they're a high-level governance board. And this year, we're really proud. We will be electing 28 provincial executive members. That includes the new, the diversity vice presidents and the new young workers representative. So we're going to have 28 members on our provincial executive. Now, the only people who are able to run for a position and to vote for to vote for your candidates are those that are a delegate to convention. So you'll see on this screen that there's 3 different groups. There's the at-large positions. Now, that means they are elected at large, so the entire membership votes on these positions. And these positions have provincial responsibility, so province-wide responsibility. But to be clear, though, the Secretary Business Manager is a staff person that is hired by the provincial executive, and they are ratified by the members only at the first convention after the hired date. So our current Secretary Business Manager, Mina Broussard, was ratified at the last convention, so she will not need to be ratified at this convention. But the rest of the provincial executive are elected. So the president and the financial secretary, we are full-time officers of the union. The 3 vice presidents and the 3 trustees, they serve the members and the locals province-wide. So again, that's the at-large piece of that. The regional vice presidents are elected in regional caucuses, and whatever local you are registered as a delegate from will determine which regional caucus you attend. And then, of course, the diversity vice presidents and the young worker representative will be elected in caucuses. And you can attend caucuses for which you self-identify with. So if you're interested in running for a position, you can find the job descriptions outlined in Article 7 of the Constitution. And you can also find it in the chairperson's manual, which you can find on the HU website. You're also going to need to know the candidates, learn a little bit about them so that you can make an informed choice. Now, who you elect is very important because these are the members that you are entrusting to carry out the direction that you give them between convention. So some candidates have already declared and have submitted their bios, and that's been distributed to all the delegates in your convention package. And you're also going to have the opportunity at convention to provide a bio, which other delegates will be able to read if you didn't put your name in already. So you still have an opportunity to run at convention. There's also going to be 3 opportunities for delegates to get to know the candidates for the at-large, regional, and diversity positions. So these happen in forums. And candidates will have up to 5 minutes each to give a speech. And then there's going to be a moderated question and answer period for delegates so that they can get to know the candidates better. The forums are scheduled at least 2 days in advance of the nominations and the elections for the positions. And then on elections day, each candidate will have to be nominated by another candidate or another delegate. So each candidate has to be nominated by another delegate, just to be clear. And if a delegate did not declare, or even if they didn't participate in any of the forums, they can actually still run off the floor, which means that they can still be nominated even if they didn't put in a bio and didn't participate in the forums. Each nominated delegate will then respond. Do they accept the nomination or not? And then delegates will vote on each of the nominated candidates. Now, to be elected, each position, a candidate must receive 50% plus one of the majority of the ballots cast. So that means if you have 3 or 4 people running, for example, it may require more than 1 ballot to get to that threshold. So on the second ballot, the top 3 candidates will remain and another vote occurs. If a majority is still not reached, another ballot will be cast between the top two candidates. So don't worry, the elections officer is going to skillfully walk us through the process. But just to give you an overview about what it is like, if you are interested in running, that you're going to need to find someone to nominate you, that you have opportunities to submit a bio, or you can even just run off the floor. Next slide, please. So besides elections, the other really important business that we do at convention is setting up the laws that govern the union and the policies that we have to follow. Now, these come in the form of resolutions and constitutional amendments. So resolutions are procedural decisions, okay? So they determine how some internal union matters are conducted. They may give policy direction to the incoming provincial executive. It may tell them to do something, such as lobby on an issue. It may, tell the provincial executive to take some sort of action or take a position on an issue, to run a campaign. It could be about local issues, provincial issues, or even international issues. So in between conventions, though, the provincial executive is also able to create policy and procedure as necessary. Now, at convention, resolutions require a majority of vote to be adopted. So just 50% plus one, and then you have changed the direction of the union. In contrast, the Constitution and bylaws of the union are the rules that the union governs itself by. And these are the overarching laws of the union, and they're inflexible. So these are rules that have been debated and adopted by the members of this union over many decades, just as you will be doing yourself at convention. And unlike resolutions, constitutional amendments are not able to change, the provincial executive is not able to change the Constitution. They can't amend these rules. They can only be changed by constitutional amendments that are passed at convention. And because of the inflexibility of this and the impact of these amendments, they require a full 2/3 of the support of delegates in order for them to be adopted. So resolutions is only 50%, but the constitutional amendments need 2/3 support. Okay, next slide, please. So for convention, a number of committees are created and populated, and that comes from the list of registered delegates. And these are just rank and file members, just like you. And they represent the diversity of our delegates, whether that's equity or regions or by sector or by occupations. And they're brought in to the provincial office ahead of convention to review the resolution proposals that were submitted by locals in order to prepare their presentation to the delegates. So the committee may actually, create composite proposals. So say that there's resolutions that are submitted, there's 2 or 3 that are very, very similar. They may actually create a composite of those proposals. And that means that they're put together into just one proposal so that the delegates don't have to go through each individual one. The resolutions committee will also look at the resolutions to consider. What is the impact on the union if this was adopted? And then at convention, they are going to prioritize which proposals will come to the floor and in what order. They will read out the proposed resolution, and they're going to make a recommendation to the members whether or not they believe that the resolution is a good idea. And that means they think you should concur with the resolution. Or they might think it's a terrible idea and they will say non-concurrence. And then they're going to provide reasons. Why do they think that? And this is really, really helpful for delegates to hear from their peers. What is their independent and informed opinion on the matter? So the Constitutional Amendments Committee does the same thing as the resolutions, but they do it with constitutional amendments. And the recommendation that the committee makes is either going to be one, like I said, of concurrence, meaning that they agree with the proposal, or non-concurrence, meaning they disagree with the proposal. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so this is where it gets confusing, and the main reason why we do so much preparatory work for our convention, because the way that we vote on our resolutions and amendments can be a bit confusing. So under our current and long-standing process, you're actually going to be voting on whether or not you agree with the committee's recommendation. So the recommendation of concurrence or non-concurrence. You're not actually voting on the proposal, you're voting on the recommendation. Don't worry, I'm going to explain what this means. So if a committee thinks a particular resolution is a good idea, somehow it's going to make the union stronger or better. And so what they're going to do is they're going to recommend concurrence. So the motion will be that, the motion will be of concurrence with the committee. So that means if you agree with the resolution, then that means you agree with the committee. So you're going to vote yes on the committee recommendation of concurrence. But if you don't agree with the resolution, so let's say you think this resolution is just bollocks, it means you do not agree with the committee who thinks it's fabulous. So that means you're going to vote no on the committee recommendation of concurrence, or you're going to vote against the committee's recommendation. And again, a resolution only requires 50% plus one, so a simple majority to pass. So let's put this into real life. What does this actually mean? Let's go to the next slide. Here's the resolution that's come to the floor. So the resolution is that HEU supports the BC Health Coalition's campaign to protect public universal health care. So the committee think this is a great idea, right? So they are going to put a motion of concurrence to the delegates. All right, so the motion is of concurrence. So let's say 85% of the delegates vote in favor. What do you think? Does the motion pass? And just put your hand up. I can see you all. So put your hand up if you think the motion passes. 85%. Look at Mary Lee. She knows. She knows. Awesome. Krista says yes. All right. Okay. So yes. The motion passes. The motion of concurrence passes. So does that mean the resolution is adopted? If the motion of concurrence passes, the resolution is adopted, right? So this is easy. This one's easy. All right. So y'all got, top marks for that. Good job. Okay. So let's go to the next question. So the next slide. All right. So where a committee disagrees with the resolution, they're going to come with a motion of non-concurrence. So that means if you also disagree with the resolution, that means you agree with the committee. So you will vote yes on the motion of non-concurrence. But if you actually like the resolution, that means you don't agree with the committee. So you're going to vote against the committee recommendation of non-concurrence. Okay, so let's practice this one. What does that mean? Okay, let's go to the next slide. So the resolution that's come to the floor, that HEU support the BC Health Coalition. Oh, no, this is, oh yeah, okay, this is the right one. No, sorry. So the motion is that the HEU support the BC Health Coalition's effort to protect public universal health care by donating $1 billion to them. All right, so the committee says, no, that's not a good idea. So the committee recommendation and the motion is of non-concurrence. They don't agree with this resolution. So if 85% of the members vote in favor, does the motion of non-concurrence pass? Put your hand up if you think it passes. Mary Lee says yes. Peter says yes. Yeah, there we go. Letitia says yes. Yeah, absolutely. The motion of non-concurrence passes. Does that mean that the resolution is adopted though? Right, you got it, right? Like, look at all that, you guys got this figured out, right on. No, that means the resolution is defeated. The motion passes, resolution defeated. Yes, that is why it's a little bit confusing, but I can tell you that usually by the end of the day one, most people figure this out, and the chairperson should be helping you along to make sure you understand how you're voting. Okay, so let's go to the next one, because constitutional amendments is very similar, but not quite, because we've got that little trick of 2/3 support is required. Okay, so it's not just a simple majority, so it gets a little bit trickier. Okay, so what this means is that if the committee agrees with the amendments, and I'm going to repeat myself a few times, if the committee agrees, that means they're going to recommend a motion of concurrence. So if you agree with the amendment, you agree with the committee, you will vote yes on the committee. If you do not agree with the committee and the amendment, that means you're going to vote no on the committee recommendation. Okay, so let's put this into real life. What is the next constitutional amendment? Go to the next slide, please. All right, so here we go. Constitutional amendment, Article 15, Section B. HEU will amend the article so that the local executive elections will occur by April 30th in every odd year, resulting in a 2-year local executive term. The committee recommendation and motion is of concurrence. Okay, so the committee thinks that this is a good idea. So the question to you, okay, it requires 2/3 support. If the motion is of concurrence, if 80% of the members vote in favor, does the motion pass? What do you think? Yes, yes. We're getting some yeses. Yeah. Mike says yes. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. So the motion of concurrence passes, and then is the amendment adopted? What do you think? Yeah. Yeah, you got it. You guys are smart. You're figuring this out. Super, super. Okay, so then if 60% of the members vote in favor, does the motion pass? That's right, getting a lot of no's. Well, technically, yeah, so the motion of concurrence actually doesn't pass. And what do you think? Is the amendment then adopted? No, it fails because we didn't hit 67%, right? We need 2/3 of the support. So you got it figured out. This is good. But wait, it gets trickier. So now we're going to look at what non-concurrence means. So if the committee disagrees with the amendment, they're going to recommend non-concurrence. So that means if you disagree with the amendment also, you agree with the committee, and you're going to vote yes on the committee. If you do agree with the amendment, you think that the committee is wrong, you don't agree with the committee, that means you vote against the committee's motion of non-concurrence. Okay, so real life. Ready? Let's go to the next one. Okay, so same constitutional amendment. So Article 15, Section B, HEU will amend the article so that the local executive elections will occur every 5 years. Okay, so the committee recommends and that their motion is of non-concurrence. They think that's too long. So the question to you, if 80% of the members vote in favor, does the motion pass of non-concurrence? So we're getting mixed. Yeah, this is what I mean. It gets tricky. This actually is a yes. Okay, so if 80% of the members vote in favor, the motion of non-concurrence passes. So does the amendment get adopted? No, Mike's got it. No, it doesn't. Okay, that is because we had more than 2/3 that said that they agreed with the motion of non-concurrence. So the motion technically passes, the amendment fails. All right. So now what if 80% of the members vote against the committee's motion of non-concurrence? 80% vote against the motion. What do you think? Does the motion pass? Look at Mike is like, no, the motion doesn't pass. No, the motion does not pass. Does the amendment get adopted? I'm getting a lot of confused looks, but I've got a few people that are like, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, the amendment is adopted. Okay, so that means, so 80% of the members vote against the motion, which is non-concurrence. So they vote against the committee. And that means because they had 2/3 of the people overturning the motion of non-concurrence, so 2/3 of the delegates actually want the amendment to pass. So therefore the amendment is adopted. So I know that sounds super confusing, but I promise you with a little bit of practice and good coaching from the chair people, you'll have a better time of it and you'll get the hang of it fairly quickly. Okay, so we're just going to move on. The other thing is that you're going to have this video available for you to watch, but we also do a new delegate seminar, at convention. So on the Sunday before convention, so you'll get a chance to do this live and in person, and even do a couple of practice runs as well. Okay, so a couple more things to note about convention. Sometimes delegates are going to ask our committees to consider making a change to the wording or make some sort of change to the proposal, whether it be a resolution or amendment. And then they want them to bring back those amendments at another time. So a delegate can make a motion to refer back to the committee. They can have some sort of a suggestion, or they can make specific instructions to reword it in some sort of way. But here's the thing, is that it's up to the committee whether or not they actually will make that change. Though they do listen, they hear what's being said on the floor, they take that into consideration, but they will determine when or even if the proposal comes back to the floor. So say a resolution, we're just having a lot of debate about a resolution and the delegates are clearly unable to make a decision one way or the other. And a delegate thinks that if it goes back to the committee with this minor change, perhaps it can come back to the floor and the delegates can then decide. So that's a reason why somebody would refer this back to the committee. But it's ultimately up to the committee whether or not they make the change and when they bring it back to the floor. So a resolution that doesn't come to the floor during the convention will actually get referred to the newly elected provincial executive, and they'll determine the outcome of those resolutions. So if that resolution doesn't come back to the floor, it gets sent off to the PE, but at least the PE still has the opportunity to discuss it and perhaps adopt it. But if there are any constitutional amendments that don't hit the floor, either during the convention itself, or if they get referred back and they are not brought back to the floor, we say that they die on the floor. And that means that you can't make any sort of constitutional amendments in between conventions. So if it's not dealt with at convention, they no longer have any value. So if you want to bring that constitutional amendment back, you have to wait until the next convention, make a new proposal, and go through the process all over again. Does that make sense? Just looking at folks, does that make sense to everybody? Excellent. Okay, good show, good show. All right, so next slide, please.